VSiN's, the sports betting network.
You're watching VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show right here on VSiN, the sports betting network, where you get your winners.
We keep it rolling here on the VSiN College Football Tailgate Show. I'm your host, Tim Murray, here in Las Vegas as the noon window about to get underway. But the big games still to kick off tonight. We've got Ole Miss visiting LSU. We've got Red River starting at 3:30, Texas and Oklahoma. We've got USC hosting Penn State. But the biggest one, no doubt about it, Ohio State headed out to Autzen to take on the Oregon Ducks, a 7:30 kick time where the Ohio State Buckeyes right now a slight 3-point favorite. And to help us break this game down, a legend from Ohio State, a national champion, an All-American, and now a host in Columbus there on the Morning Juice on 97.1 The Fan. It is Bobby Carpenter who joins us courtesy of our progressive guest line. Bobby, appreciate it. I'm just curious, this week, this is a game that we've talked about, at least from a national standpoint, all year long. I know the game's not happening in Columbus, but what has the talk been like all week long on your show and in your town in Columbus, Ohio?
There's been a lot of anticipation because, there really wasn't the big non-conference test this year. So, everybody's kind of wading into this. Michigan State had some good elements on offense. They were able to make some plays. Ohio State straightened that out. They played Iowa, who's got a terrific defense and runs the ball well, but really not much of a threat through the air. So this is that first major test. It's on the road. It's cross-country. It's an evening game out in Oregon, but a night game here on the East Coast. People are very excited about it and just kind of excited to figure out, is this team as advertised in a good versus good? Ryan Day calls these matchup games where you're playing teams where the talent is fairly equitable. Like, there may be an advantage here or there across the board, but nobody's going to come out in this game and win it by 28. You've got to go out there and execute. You've got to win your matchups. You've got to be prepared. You have to call a good game. You can't turn the ball over. You can't have penalties. All of those things come into play, especially when you're on the road. So, there's been a ton of buzz about it to find out what this team's really made of.
Offensively, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson both averaging over 7.8 yards per carry. Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith continue to be absolute studs out wide. It looks like that Ohio State should get Carnell Tate back. But with all those weapons, what does Will Howard have to do, in your eyes, Bobby, tonight in order to get Ohio State a victory?
Well, he's got to be a fifth-year quarterback. That's why part of the reason, that he's starting. He throws a really good ball. He's not maybe the best passer the world's ever seen, but he's good. He throws a good ball, but he's poised. He's a leader. He can run with his legs. Like, he's going to have to use his legs some.
Yeah.
When they've started running him a little bit more, leaning in on that, there's going to be a third down where you got to move the chains, whatever that takes. Maybe a time in the red zone where you've got to find a way to move the chains or get into the end zone and do that. You can't turn it over. And when it's loud, he's going to have to be calm. It's a pretty veteran team, but you do have some young guys out there, and he's got to be that lighthouse in the storm because there's going to be some ebbs and flows. And in college football games, that momentum swings wildly back and forth. And when it's going good, you can't be too high. And when it's struggling, he's got to be the guy that can be that lighthouse and make sure that he calms the waters.
I'm glad you mentioned Will Howard rushing because this is a guy that at Kansas State we saw him use his legs a bunch, and we haven't seen him. And maybe there's a reason for that, Bobby, because let's look at the opponents so far this year. Saw him run a little bit more last week against Iowa, had 28 yards. Right now his over-under's 25.5 for rushing yards. Do you expect Chip Kelly to dial some things up for Will Howard today to utilize his legs tonight?
I think there'll be some designed runs for him. Now, how many they actually execute and call, that'll be up to, I think, how the game plays out. You never want to subject your quarterback to more hits than they need. And so I think part and parcel with that is, the more he runs, that's something that's needed in the offense. If they can't get that running game going without him running the football, then I think it's like, okay, well, this is a guy that we brought in that we know can run it. Let's use him, use his legs, and go run the football with him. And that can be part of what we have. If they don't necessarily need him to run the football a lot, then maybe they don't use him quite as much. That scramble of his will be important, I think, even more than the designed runs. The scramble is important to be able to keep the chains moving. And, yeah, maybe there is a 3rd and 3 where you line up and run a quarterback power. I think that'll be a piece of it too. That's going to be an element of what it can look like. But I think that scramble, I keep going back to it, because being a defensive guy, there was nothing worse than when you had everybody covered up and that quarterback pulls it down and gives you the back-breaking first down when he's able to pick up that extra yard and keep the chains moving.
Bobby Carpenter, former Ohio State linebacker, All-American, national champion, now host on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. The Morning Juice is his program Monday through Friday mornings there in Columbus. So on the defensive side of the ball, where I'm sure your eyes gravitate, Bobby, Jim Knowles has been there now 3 seasons, and what he's brought from Oklahoma State has been quite impressive. What are the challenges for his defense tonight facing this Oregon offense?
Well, it's a little bit similar to what Ohio State has. These teams kind of mirror each other a lot. They're very good on the defensive lines. They want to run the football. They've got some game breakers out there, and they both have quarterbacks that have played a ton of football, and they're both athletic guys. And so you look ultimately at Dylan Gabriel. He's a little bit smaller than Will Howard. He's a lefty, but he does a lot of damage with his legs. They're very effective. And you watch some of the best games that he's had over his career. I go back to last year in Red River, a game that's being played today in Dallas, Texas, what he had to do. You know, you're putting up 50-plus yards on the ground and 300 in the air and moving the chains, making those big plays. Like, that's something that he's going to have to be involved in. So Ohio State is going to need to keep him in the pocket. It's going to lean in with their ends, JT Tuimoloau, who's a Washington guy. So this is kind of as close as he's getting to home. And Jack Sawyer. And then internally, a couple guys to keep an eye on, the Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton. You know, early in the year when Oregon wasn't as prolific on offense and they were having some issues, it was because there was a lot of internal pressure. They've kind of revamped that offensive line, made some changes. They've been playing a lot better. But pressure in the face of Dylan Gabriel, he's not the biggest guy in the world, about 6'1". So if you can get pressure down the middle, that impacts quarterbacks in a big way, especially guys that aren't that tall. And I think that's going to be one of the keys to being able to impact them tonight.
All right, this is the all-important question, Bobby, that everyone wants to know. Ohio State's going to be rocking all white uniforms. Oregon's going all black. Who has the better uniforms tonight in Eugene?
I like the cocaine whites. That's always been my favorite. I liked playing on the road because I liked wearing the whites more anyway. I think it's a good, clean look, and I'm excited to see what they look like tonight. They've pulled them out before in the past, and they've usually played pretty well in them.
As Ohio State said, it's feeling icy in Eugene. All right, Bobby, I'll let you run on this. Who wins? What's the score, and why?
I think Ohio State wins. I'll say 31-24. I think probably just make one. They've got more pathways to victory. They've got some elite receivers that can help cover up some things. And I think J.J. Smith makes a big play that ultimately maybe turns that game.
Awesome stuff, man. We appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, have a good one.
There he is, Bobby Carpenter. He is a legend for Ohio State, national champion, All-American, and hosts a morning radio show there in Columbus, Ohio. And he is rocking with his Ohio State Buckeyes there. Not a big surprise, but understand why he would ultimately run that way. A couple trends courtesy of Steve Makinen over at VSiN.com. Ohio State 7-2 ATS in the last 9 as a single-digit road Big Ten favorite. Now, also worth noting, I saw this pointed out on Twitter this week by Todd Furman, is when you look at Ohio State so far this year or over history, and history trends are what they are. Ohio State in these spots as kind of a against top 5 teams, they are just 1-7 ATS against AP top 5 teams. And last year, of course, they were 2 years ago, they were a 9-point favorite against Michigan, and that one did not come home. So, we were talking about Will Howard and his ability to utilize his legs. And I noticed earlier this week, the prop was, I think, in the teens. It's now ballooned up to 25. And Ryan Day actually talked about Will Howard and his capability using his legs and what we could see tonight. Let's hear from Coach Day.
Well, I think a big part is his legs, and having the ability to make a difference with his legs. And, you always, when you're starting, at the end of a season, you start backwards and kind of almost try to almost reverse engineer the whole roster. And it starts with that, is that, the ability to, use your legs is really, really important because that becomes the X factor, and he can do that. And so it kind of goes from there. And we kind of made that decision and felt like that was important for us. And so then it kind of, went from there. And, all the other things are, for him, his size and his intelligence and his ability to throw the ball and, throw accurately in the red zone, and third down. Those are all really big traits that you need in big games.
When you look at Will Howard and what he did at Kansas State last year, 46 yards on the ground in the regular season finale against Iowa State. He had a 62-yard performance against TCU, 104 against Oklahoma State, 64 against UCF, had 33 in their second game of the season against Troy. And, I don't think it's going to be designed runs, but I certainly have a feeling that we could see Will Howard utilize his legs. I think Dylan Gabriel could utilize his legs as well tonight. Oregon and Ohio State, can't wait for this one. The look-ahead line was 2. The line over the summer was around a pick. And right now, as we look at the latest market number here on Oregon and Ohio State, 3 pretty much across the board except at DraftKings. There's a 3.5 out there. So if you have not gotten involved on the game and you're looking to take the Oregon Ducks, 3.5s are out there at DraftKings. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get you updated on those noon games as well as some of the best sound to prepare you for today.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big. We go all night. And here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Monday on Follow the Money, a huge day in sports. We recap a wild weekend in the NFL and college. Bills, Jets, Monday Night Football. Yankees, Mets, both in action. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Fills in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's Late Night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network, where you get your winners.
It is VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show, and if you're looking for some action, our friends at First Bet have you covered. Sign up today to unlock exclusive promotions, plus watch and wager on hundreds of exciting horse races every day from across the country and around the world. Sign up at firstbet.com. Firstbet.com. That's the number one, ST. Bet.com. Use the promo code VSiN200 to claim a 20% rebate for your first 60 days, up to $200. Head, once again, firstbet.com today. I am Tim Murray here in Las Vegas at the Circus Sportsbook. We'll run through our best bets for today. We'll do another no-huddle, get you through as many games as possible, as obviously we know we've been focusing very much on the biggest games of the day. We do have games underway, so let's quickly update you on those games. In the weirdest game in the history of college football, maybe not history, of the year, Missouri at UMass, and Missouri has taken an early 7-0 lead, a two-play, 63-yard drive. And UMass, I'm just going to go on a limb. I don't know if they have anyone on their roster that could replicate Luther Burden, and he went 61 yards for a touchdown. 7-0 Missouri with the early lead over the Minutemen of UMass there. Wisconsin and Rutgers, a best bet from Paul Stone. He liked Rutgers in this spot, scoreless, that one early on in the first quarter. A line that Dustin Sweetelson, producer Dustin, said, I don't understand this line move. I didn't really understand it either, and Ball State has an early 7-0 lead over Kent State. This game closed like 3. Kent State getting some money for some odd reason. Army, they were the number 1 or number 2 most bet team according to stations, and Army out to an early 7-0 lead over UAB, and Army went right down the field on the first play after a turnover on downs, 34 yards to the house. So how about the opening drive for UAB? They failed on 4th and 1 from their own 34, and the first play from scrimmage, Bryson Daly, 29 yards to the house, and Army leads that one 7-0 against UAB. Don't look now. Army, with that schedule, got a real big good opportunity to be 9-0 heading into a November showdown against Notre Dame. Bounce back spot potentially for Alabama, and they lead 7-0 over South Carolina. Jalen Milroe, 3 for 3, 63 yards into the end zone with his own legs. So Jalen Milroe, a touchdown there as it is 7-0 Alabama. Scoreless between Clemson and Wake Forest. Washington and Iowa, a best bet for me, as I have Iowa there. Washington with the ball, and they are at their own 44-yard line. A couple other games underway. No score between UNC and Georgia Tech, as well as Toledo and Buffalo. Normally on Red River Day, that game would be underway, but it is not. It is at 3:30 Eastern today down in Dallas, and we've talked about the money that has poured in on Texas today as they are now a 17-point favorite. And actually, before we get to that, I want to circle back to Oregon and Ohio State. Right now, 3-point favorite are the are the Ohio State Buckeyes. First time Oregon's been a home dog since 2018, a game in which they won against Washington. And Dylan Gabriel, he's played in some big games, and you heard Bobby Carpenter talk about Dylan Gabriel and the moment that he had last week. So taking a look at this spot for Dylan Gabriel, biggest game that he's played in, no doubt, as an Oregon Duck. What is he looking forward to taking on Ohio State?
I think going back to the basis of winning, for sure. But, of course, in these atmospheres as well, experience is a huge thing. I think, the turnover battle, third downs, fourth downs, efficiency, and then scoring in the red area. I think when you combine all those three, you can look at it. And usually that's, the main three categories of winning. But, I think just, naturally there's a lot of energy and hype for everyone. But the best, team at focusing and honing in on, their job, usually does a great job in the game as well.
Not a whole lot of earth-shattering stuff there from Dylan Gabriel, but understandably where he's coming from. Oregon needing to play their best game from what we've seen so far. And I think they're capable of doing it. It is not one of my best bets. Matt Humans does like the Ducks here. There is a 3.5 out there at DraftKings if you do want to go that route. I think more 3.5s will start to show as well. Well, it's been all one-way action on Texas and Oklahoma, as I alluded to. Now a 17-point spread in this spot. The Bear, Chris Felica, his note earlier this week, which was since 1988, we've had 13 double-digit spreads in this rivalry. 10 of those 13 have been covered by the underdog. Oklahoma catching 17, dealing with a ton of injuries at the wide receiver position, but they've got a new quarterback, Michael Hawkins. Remember, he stepped in for Jackson Arnold during the Tennessee game, and he has kept that job. And here's Brent Venables on his young signal caller.
His poise is taking care of the ball. Playing aggressive still, though, not playing on his heels, still playing aggressive, believing in himself, taking care of the ball, and then being coachable through all of it. And you'll be the first one to say, man, I missed that here and there on this game and this series, and should have made that play, should have made that decision. But those are the two of the biggest. I think they're really important. That's what you can win a lot of games when you take care of the ball and you play within the system. You don't do something that's crazy. But we've done some things where, our first read is obvious, and we're not reading there either. But what I like about Mike is he owns it, first of all, no excuses, and then he corrects it.
Big injuries to note here for Oklahoma. Deion Burks out as their leading wide receiver, dealing with a soft tissue injury. The top 5 wide receivers will all be sidelined for Oklahoma. So it's going to be a lot on the plate of the youngster Michael Hawkins and his rush yards as you see him over there. Now, remember, in college football, sacks count against you. So if he is sacked a bunch, that counts against his rushing yards. But though you see him utilize his legs a bunch here, 32-plus rushing yards at DraftKings, sitting at minus $1.20. Speaking of rushing yards, one of my best bets of the week is Avery Johnson over his rushing yards. We talked about it on the podcast on Thursday, the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. That number's kind of ballooned up out to 71, 72, depending on one shop you look at. But the narrative, I hate that word, but the narrative has been flipped as of right now on Colorado, right? There was a lot of questioning this Colorado team, questioning the prime era after they got blown out by Nebraska. But Colorado, to their credit, has absolutely responded. And they got a fortunate finish to the Baylor game with the Hail Mary coming home and then Travis Hunter forcing the turnover in the end zone. They go down to UCF. I would say the best game of the Coach Prime era, that or the TCU performance. They went out and they blew out UCF. They're coming off a bye, taking on Kansas State. And Coach Prime talked to the media earlier this week about how things and the tune around Colorado has been changing a bit.
I really don't care, honestly, because as quick as they jump on, they can jump off. As quick as they support, they try to dismantle. As quick as they love, they could hate. So I really don't get into that. I know who it is for my purposes. I definitely know who said what for my purposes. And my sons and Darius and all those guys who reach the people. I mean, they and Neely also, they know. They keep me abreast of what time it is, so I know what's what. But as far as the young men, I just don't want them to believe that they arrived. All this hoopla about Jordan Seaton, I say, Jordan, a couple plays they could have had you right there. Our DBs, if they had threw the ball right there, they had us. So don't believe that foolishness. Work on your game and work on your craft. Be the best you could be, but don't believe the hype whatsoever.
This game, you've seen Colorado money hit the market. We talked to Chuck Esposito about this particular game earlier today and action on Colorado. So it feels like the folks have kind of jumped back in on the Colorado bandwagon. And when you think about what happened last night, Utah losing their second game in Big 12 play. Cam Rising, by the way, looked bad. He looked 25. He looked 52. I mean, the way that he was struggling out there. So the Big 12, as I think many of us anticipated, is wide open. And Colorado, if they win today, those odds, they shorten significantly because Kansas State, with already a loss in their back pocket, losing on the road to BYU, they still sit at plus 380. I mean, looking at that odds board for the Big 12 is so fascinating when you think about what we saw last night with Utah losing. Iowa State's undefeated. I think they have a tough one ahead of them tonight as well on the road at West Virginia. Quick update from Iowa City. The Hawkeyes block a field goal, so a lengthy opening drive for Washington that leads to no points. It's scoreless at Kinnick Stadium. Brian Kelly and the LSU Bayou Bengals. Do they take care of business as a home dog? We'll hear from Coach Kelly next.
They're off.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network, where you get your winners.
Put the VSiN experts to work for you this football season and start betting smarter with a VSiN Pro subscription. Sign up on a VSiN Pro annual subscription today. You get your first year for only $199. That's less than $20 a month, folks. You got to use the promo code TAILGATE. Tailgate is the promo code. You get full access to everything we do, including daily best bets, top-rated betting systems, 24/7 video access, betting splits to show you where the money and bets are moving for every game, plus our all-new, loaded NBA betting guide. Remember, the promo code TAILGATE to get your first year of the VSiN Pro access for just $199. Sign up today, VSiN.com/subscribe, VSIN.com/subscribe. It's already underway, baby. We started last night. The Dogs were barking 3-0 for the Dogs against the spread. Friday night Dogs are 16-5. Will the Dogs be barking today? Let's get you updated real quickly before we continue our previews of games across today. The Missouri Tigers not sleepwalking into Amherst as they are up 14-0 on UMass. Rutgers just got a big interception on Wisconsin, which is good because that is the best bet for Paul Stone, and Wisconsin leading that game 7-0. Army has a first and goal as they lead 7-3 over UAB, one of the more public-sided bets of the week. Alabama up 7-0 on South Carolina, but it looks like they're going to have to punt the ball away there late in the first quarter. Iowa, one of my best bets. They are with the ball after a missed field goal, a blocked field goal from Washington. So hopefully Caleb Johnson gets it rolling here. That is a game that is scoreless right now in Iowa City at Kinnick Stadium there. No score between Washington and Iowa. So one of the games to keep an eye on. Georgia Tech into the end zone against UNC. They lead 7-0. Buffalo, the sandwich spot, right? 7-0 for the Bulls against Toledo. So we'll see if the deli play does come home. Later tonight, we got a rare scene. In Baton Rouge, LSU is catching points against Ole Miss. We'll give you the trend of Brian Kelly off of a bye week, extended rest, and how he has fared at his previous stops and at LSU. But earlier this week on the Paul Feinbaum Show, Brian Kelly was asked about what scares him regarding Jackson Dart of Ole Miss.
Jackson Dart, returning quarterback, 3-year starter. Look, I think if we've seen one thing happen this past week, the quarterback is driving this, whether it's at Miami or Vanderbilt or, any of the programs that are successful right now. The quarterback is central to driving these programs. And make no mistake about it, Jackson Dart is driving this Ole Miss. Now, they have great complementary players. Trey Harris, wide receiver, is outstanding. They have elite players on the defensive side of the ball, and they're well coached. So they're deserving of their ranking.
Speaking of Trey Harris, this was reported last night, and this is good news for Ole Miss and Ole Miss backers. Trey Harris upgraded to probable in the injury report, and he is expected to play. Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports, or I think is he on 3? He's with CBS Sports. He's now changed spots there. He is currently on track, as reported yesterday. Trey Harris leads the nation with 148 receiving yards per game. So that's good news, certainly, for Ole Miss. Speaking of Brian Kelly, I mentioned this earlier in the show. Brett McMurphy tweeted this out earlier in the week, courtesy of Evan Abrams over at the Action Network, that coming off a bye, LSU's head coach Brian Kelly, 15-2 straight up, 12-5 ATS playing at home. So LSU, you got that working for them. It's funny, we joked about this, me and Matt did on the podcast, which is when you think about your best team, your favorite team, sometimes you're a little bit more pessimistic, and I bring that up because our good friend Jimmy Ott down there on ESPN Baton Rouge is not too optimistic about this spot for LSU, believes that the Ole Miss Rebels up front are much superior to what LSU has. So, yeah, that's one thing to certainly keep an eye on. Trey Harris, as I alluded to, him being back is big. I don't have a bet on this one. I would lean LSU catching the points here at home against Ole Miss, but no official bet here. All right, late night on the island. Oh, Boise State and Hawaii. Doesn't it warm your heart inside to have a late night game on your television, CBS Sports Network, Boise State at Hawaii? My guy, Timmy Chang, he's got his hands full trying to slow down Ashton Jeanty. And Dirk Cutter, he's the offensive coordinator of Boise State. And his job has become pretty easy when you just hand the ball off to your superstar running back. First play last week, 63 yards to the crib. And this is Dirk Cutter on what it's like coordinating Ashton Jeanty.
It was, he scores on that first play. It's almost anticlimactic. I'm finally, we were on defense first. We go through the kicking plays. Finally, it's time for me to do my job, and he takes a counter play and runs it 70 yards for a touchdown. Have some more popcorn and wait for the next series.
Have some more popcorn. Wait for the next series. What was Mike Sanford's prediction? 202 club. That's what he predicted. 13 rushes, 200-plus yards, 2 quarters of play tonight. I think tonight, and I'm hoping for Matt Humans, that it's a little bit more challenging there. I think Hawaii could put up some points. How about these stats? We're going to throw these up here. The Mountain West leaders in rushing. Ashton Jeanty, shockingly, leads the conference in rushing yards at 1,031. The next closest is Marquise Cooper of San Diego State with 584. I believe I heard a stat that Ashton Jeanty off of contact is like third in the conference in rushing yards. It is absolutely ridiculous what we've seen from Ashton. It's second. So Dustin, he would be number 1, and then his yards after contact would be number 2. That's a ridiculous stat. But that's what this dude is, and his rushing props tonight will run these now. I more jokingly played the under last week at 192.5, and I put it out on social media. At what point am I going to hate myself? The first play from scrimmage, as we heard from Dirk Cutter against Utah State, 63 yards to the house. He had 186 yards at halftime and then did not play in the second half. So 192.5, which was what I grabbed here in town, did not come home for anyone who bet the over. I actually had a slight bet to the under there, but fortunately for me, that did come home. Ashton Jeanty, we'll see what he does tonight, late night on the island. I agree with Matt. Brad Powers, by the way, his best bet was over in this game. You can get over 60 right now, so I took a little nibble on that. Late night, not as late as Hawaii, but an 8 o'clock Eastern start in Morgantown, West Virginia. We've got Iowa State taking on the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Iowa State, they are the favorites now to win the Big 12. They have gotten off to a great start. They have a road win against Iowa, came back to win that game. Matt Campbell and his crew headed out to Morgantown for no doubt a challenging task.
They're a really good football team, and I think it all starts for them. They've got an elite quarterback. I mean, he's talented, he's tough, he's gritty. And I think every game that he has played in since he's been the quarterback at West Virginia, they've had a chance to win. And, they've got a really talented backfield. Obviously, they're rushing the ball at a really high rate with great success on the offensive side of the football. On defense, they're complex. They do a lot. They really challenge all your rules in terms of offensive football, and they've done a great job of holding teams, against the run and creating some turnovers along the way. And then you look at special teams, they're tough. I think that's the thing that I really appreciate about, the opponent is, man, there's a sense of toughness and pride in everything they do. And so I really just think they played great team football, to be quite honest with you, over the last couple of weeks.
The hooks are showing up on this one, so we'll see if Paul Stone is the right side or if I will ultimately get there. So Paul Stone and I going head-to-head in this one. I like West Virginia. Obviously, there's a better number out there. 3.5s are out there, so grab that if you agree with me. If you agree with Paul, there's some 3s out there, so lay the 3 with Iowa State. It is deemed the Coal Rush tonight, and these are the uniforms that West Virginia is going to be rocking, and all black uniforms. Oregon will be rocking all black uniforms, and what I believe will be a blackout And these uniforms that they're putting out there, man, those are nice. A little matted black. Whoo, buddy. I know West Virginia. I know a lot of people like Penn State week 1. I didn't get to the window on that, thankfully. I think this spot's just different, man. At home, it's a night game. There's familiarity with Iowa State. Neil Brown has had some success against John Heacock, the defensive coordinator there for Iowa State. And Iowa State's linebackers are banged up, man. And I think West Virginia, when you look at Garrett Green, their quarterback, C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White in the backfield, I think West Virginia's going to be able to run. Give me the points. I will also take some money line. I think West Virginia wins this game outright as the Big 12 will continue to cannibalize itself. All right, best bets galore on the other side of the break, as well as a quick no-huddle. Let's put a bow on the VSiN College Football Tailgate Show.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Sean Green and Ryan Kramer bring an energetic approach to sports betting to keep you entertained while sweating your bets on the Sports Gambling Podcast Live at VSiN.
There is something to the idea of the smart teams might be zagging. You see all the best offenses in the National Football League have a fullback.
If you like defense, if you like football, how can you not be okay with 2 high safeties?
Join Sean and Ryan every Friday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on the Sports Gambling Podcast Live at VSiN, right here on the Sports Betting Network.
watching VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show right here on VSiN, the sports betting network where you get your winners.
Putting a bow on the VSiN College Football Tailgate Show. I'm your host, Tim Murray, keeping you updated on the games that are going on right now. Live Bet Saturday will follow this program, and they will obviously keep you updated on everything that's going on. The big games still to come tonight as well. So stick around for Live Bet Saturday, then Ready, Set, Bet with Matt Brown and Mike Somich at 7 o'clock, and the Football Contest Show with Matt Brown and Mike Somich as well. So that is our schedule for you. Live Bet Saturday for 6 hours to keep you updated on what is happening across the college football world. Quick updates on what's happening in college football. Army just absolutely blasting UAB as they lead 20-3. Producer Dustin goes, Bryson Daly, could he win the Heisman Trophy? The quarterback of Army, 5 carries, 86 yards, 3 touchdowns. Army 5-0 ATS on the year, 5-0 straight up, and we will see if that continues there. North Carolina's tied it up with Georgia Tech. That one late in the first quarter, 7-7 is the score. Not ideal for one of Paul Stone's best bets, 14-0 Wisconsin up on Rutgers. End of the first quarter, Washington just picked up a first down, but Iowa does lead 7-0. Caleb Johnson, a touchdown on the ground in there for Iowa. Missouri up 14-0 on UMass. How about this? End of one quarter, and the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, they lead 7-0 over Clemson. And South Carolina driving, but it looks like they will be forced to attempt a field goal here. 7-0 Bama on top of South Carolina. All right, before we get to a little no huddle, let's revisit some best bets. We'll do my best bets here first. One game underway, that is Iowa on the money line against Washington, so we'll skip over that one. Kentucky, I love Kentucky in this spot off of Vanderbilt's massive win. That said, the market's moved against me, so I don't love that. But this is a brutal spot from a situational standpoint for Vanderbilt. I laid the chalk with Kentucky. I also wouldn't be opposed to a team total under. I think 14.5s are out there. We just talked about West Virginia. You can grab the hook now. I should have been patient, but you know, we had a show on Thursday, and I thought this game would get down to 2.5. It did not. It's gone the other way. But I like West Virginia. I love their capabilities on the ground. I think they're able to take care of business. My favorite play of the weekend is UCLA. I don't love UCLA as a program right now, but I love this spot for them coming off of a loss. They've been feisty, and they're taking on Minnesota, who has now playing their 7th straight game. A clear letdown spot for Minnesota there against UCLA. I also did bet an Avery Johnson rushing prop, but the numbers moved way too much for me to suggest that one. Other bets that have been handed out here on the show, Boise State, Hawaii over 60. That was a best bet from Brad Powers earlier this week on VSiN Primetime. Also, Iowa State is a best bet for Paul Stone. He's going head-to-head with me on that one. And Matt Humans does like the dogs in both the primetime games. He's taken the points with LSU. He's taken the points with Oregon as well. Producer Dustin, you can check out all his plays on vsin.com/picks if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber. Let's run through Dustin's board here. Laying the chalk with Pittsburgh in a spot that I deemed, I don't know what the hell's going on with this line, so I'm going to stay off of it. But I'm willing Dustin home on that one. Pittsburgh 5-0 ATS on the year. Cal in a brutal spot there. So give me, I will ride with Dustin on that one. Best of luck there. He's riding with me. I love it. He's going with West Virginia plus the 3.5 against Iowa State. He took the under in this Washington Iowa game, under 42.5. Penn State, he laid the chalk with Penn State, took the points with Oklahoma, took the points with Oregon, took the points with UCLA, and he's laying it with Kansas State. So there is producer Dustin's card. Once again, he fires, baby. vsin.com/picks to check out all of his plays there. The number one used play in the Friday Circa Football Invitational. Let's run through these real quickly. Akron, Western Michigan under 52. Arizona, BYU under. So that game coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern, and that one's been a pros versus Joe setup. Pittsburgh laying the chalk, so they're in agreement there with Dustin. Memphis laying the chalk, and that number's moved out to 9. Rice, UTSA under 52.5, and that one has moved to 51. And then 4 contestants like the points with the men of Troy. USC, fight on, 3.5. Couple other plays there. West Virginia, common play. NC State against Syracuse. Syracuse now down to just a 2-point favorite, so that number's moved off the key of 3 as well. So some of the best plays there. And once again, if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, make sure to check out all of those plays. You get them in your email, VSiN.com. All right, let's wrap up the show with a little no-huddle before we get you out of here. Live Bet Saturday coming up next. Patrick Maher leading the charge for Live Bet Saturday and going to keep you updated on all of the games going on across the day here. Let's go to the 12:30 window. We'll rapid fire through these. Texas now a 17-point favorite against Oklahoma. Red River, the note that has been mentioned a bunch today on the show, underdogs of 10 or more. It's happened 13 times since 1988. The dog has covered in 10 of those. Penn State at USC. I imagine Nicholas Singleton should be back to join his running mate, Katron Allen. Penn State on the road at USC. We've seen some USC money hit the market. This number sits at 3.5. No movement today. This is the best bet for Matt Humans. He's going head-to-head with producer Dustin in this one. I would lean USC here in this spot. My worry would be what we saw from USC's defense in the Minnesota game last week and the Michigan game, where they struggle to slow down the run, and that's what Penn State wants to do. So a lean USC, but no play for me. Notre Dame off a bye, taking on Stanford. Just a couple years ago, Stanford waltzed into Notre Dame Stadium in the final year of the David Shaw era as a 16-point dog and won that game outright. Ashton Daniels, according to reports, should be back for the Stanford Cardinal, which make this team a lot better than what they had last week with Lamson when they took on Virginia Tech, and that was the wrong side of that bet for me. No play on this one. Notre Dame off a bye under Marcus Freeman, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 ATS. A game we've mentioned a bunch, Cal and Pitt. Pitt is 5-0 ATS, 5-0 straight up. Cal coming off the brutal loss to Miami. Looking at the market on this one as Cal heads across country to take on Pittsburgh. And you could still get a 3 at DraftKings and Circa if you do like the Pittsburgh Panthers here in this spot. That line spooks me. How about a line move in this one? Purdue, more like Perdon't, because they stink. My goodness, they're getting absolutely hammered. Questions and rumors about, has the team quit on Ryan Walters? They've already fired their offensive coordinator. Purdue, who got bet on against Notre Dame, bet on against Oregon State. They lost and did not cover either one of those games. They are finally getting bet against here. Illinois, the only worry I would have in this one, if you're looking to back Illinois, A, you missed the best of the number. B, they do play Michigan next week. Is this a spot that they take their foot off the gas if they're up big in that one? So those are the games in the 3:30 Eastern window. How about BYU Arizona up in Provo? Pete Thamel put this out. BYU is going to be starting their third-string center. Bruce Mitchell will get the start today. He is a converted defensive lineman. This is his first action at center. I like Arizona. I think Arizona wins this game. The line is kind of telling you something here in this particular spot. Number sits pretty much market wide at 3. There's a 2.5 out there if you do like the Cougars to take care of business. But this is one of those, as we deem them, pros versus Joes spots, right? Where it looks like all the pros are backing Arizona. The public is riding with BYU and their 5-0 ATS mark on the year. I like Arizona to win this game outright. Mentioned this in the delicatessen earlier. Georgia laying a big old number this week against Mississippi State. Remember, Colby Young with an off-the-field incident. He has been suspended indefinitely there for Georgia. I do wonder, is this a little bit of a peek ahead for the Georgia Bulldogs to next week when they take on Texas? How about the night slate? It is absolutely loaded. Florida at Tennessee. Haven't even mentioned this game. Tennessee is laying a big old number coming off a loss. 14.5-point favorite against the Gators at home. I thought this would be the most lopsided ticket count of the day at stations, but it was not. Ohio State and Oregon. We'll be talking about this all day long. We put up a couple clips on Twitter as well, and I'll put up Bobby Carpenter here in just a moment. But I like the Ducks slightly here in this spot, catching the 3 against Ohio State. slate. Ole Miss at LSU, Death Valley at night. Doesn't get much better than that. Ole Miss laying 3.5 against LSU in this one. Best bet from Matt Humans. He's taking the points with the Bayou Bengals. Go Tigers there. LSU against Ole Miss. A best bet for me, give me West Virginia. Almost heaven. Hopefully it will be almost heaven when they cover and win this game outright tonight against Iowa State, and the carnage continues in the Big 12. I like Avery Johnson to go over his rushing prop tonight against Colorado. I think he uses his legs. I think Kansas State wins this game, but it's not a game that I'm looking to bet. And then lastly, 11 o'clock, Boise State taking on Hawaii. What do we see from Ashton Genty? Hopefully we see points aplenty. Let's go over on Hawaii, Boise State. Thank you to everyone that has participated on the show today. Thanks to producer Dustin, everyone else behind the scenes as always. Live Bet Saturday coming up next. Enjoy the loaded Week 7 slate.
The only thing better than football is the excitement of all the